life is because the enemy want to distract you from where you're about to go. But somebody ought to just get excited and tell your enemy, say, listen here, where I'm going is greater than where I've been. And where I've been has been preparing me for where I'm about to go. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon for those that's coming in. I know I'm running late. It's raining, and on this side of Atlanta, it was raining. So I'm heading from Stone Mountain to College Park, but I have to drop off a package, right? So I'm talking to you all today about but, the word but. We talked about it earlier today. We saw it today. We discussed the matter today. But Genesis, the 8th chapter, Genesis 8:1. says, it starts off with, but God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark. And he sent a wind over the earth, and the water receded. Right? Genesis 8:1. God remembered Noah that was in the ark, and all the wild animals and livestock, his people, and all of them. God sent a wind upon the earth and receded the water. I want you to know that every time you hear the word but, there's going to be always a negative conjunction. But you ought to rephrase whenever someone say but, or you say but I, or someone say something to you and there's a but there, you put but God. But my God shall supply all of my needs. I want you to take authority over the word but in your life. Not the B-U-T-T, but the B-U-T. I want you to take over. Enjoy yourself. I want you to take over the word but. You have a kingdom responsibility. You have a responsibility to yourself to take over, to take advantage of the word but. You have the right to take advantage, and you have the right to make every person that's trying to make you feel as if what you feel, what you say, what you do, or what God told you is non-existent. And you'll find that, and let me say this, sometimes people do that, and it's not because they mean harm, or they don't mean well. Sometimes people do it because sometimes we put people in a place where they have to correct us or feel like we need correction by them because of so many errors that we've had prior. And now that you've learned the correction, if you learn the errors of your ways, you do what? You start making change, and sometimes people can just remember the errors that you made and not see the change you made. Now, and you can't blame them, is because remember what I said. We put some people there. Some people are in our lives, and some people are speaking words of correction or trying to help you finagle through certain things and whatnot, or seem like you need assistance by them. It's because of what? We put them there because so many times we needed their assistance prior, right? So they feel like you need their assistance now. So don't get discombobulated and angry and mad and frustrated and go off on the bad end. Remember, react properly. You got to react properly. You got to allow people. People will promise you things, and people will promise you certain things, and then they'll go start living and forget the promises that they made. I have a lot of people in my life that I have been a blessing to. I have a lot of people in my life that have been a blessing to me. And but there's a lot of people that have been that's in my life, or I've been in their life, that promises was made. And more times than the promises that was made to me have been broken. I promise you I'm gonna be your friend through thick and high water. I'm gonna be your friend. I promise you that I'm gonna rock with you through thick and high water. I'm going to rock with you. If I gave you a title, my brother, my sister, my niece, or whatever title I give you, if I give you that title's until death do us part, right? But there's sometimes people will come in our lives and they, what's up, Athena Reed? Sometimes we give people titles and we give people promises and we give people words and we break them. We break them sometime on purpose because we're frustrated with them or we're mad with them and whatnot. And I personally don't work well with like that, because if me and you are brothers and sisters, or if we became real close and I make a promise to you, I'm not going to renege on that promise. I'm not going to renege on that promise. I will probably talk to you about it or say, well, we can't do that right now, but we can do it later on. But I have dealt with, all my life, I've dealt with people that would promise you they're going to do something and renege on it. And I have people to this day right now that's in my life have made promises and renege on them. And then when I personally slow down with making does not fulfill my promise that I've said, as quick as they think, then they go into this little attitude mode. And I have sometimes to sit back and say, wait a minute, how you gonna have an attitude about how my speed of getting the promise I promise you to pass when you renege on your whole promise? So you just got to understand, sometimes that's just people. Sometimes that's how people operate. That's how people function. That's how people live their life. They live their life by making up things and telling you things so that they can get something out of it and gain something out of it. And then there's some people who will literally forget that they made that promise to you or they said that to you. And so oftentimes I hear it a lot. I hear it a lot that says, oh, I'm going to do this and so, PJ, I'm going to do this, or Unc, I'm going to do this, or, whatever the situation is. And it doesn't always come through. Or son, I'm going to do this, or, Pops, I'm going to do this, or Dad, I'm going to do this. And it does not always. Pastor, I'm going to do this, or Pastor, I'm going to do this. Bishop, I'm going to do this. And it doesn't always come. And then when you say, oh, I don't remember we had that conversation. Oh, so sometimes that can be, I'm showing you something. Sometimes that can be because they changed their mind due to some kind of engagement you all had. You all could have had an engagement that made them change their mind about doing something, or they forgot, or they changed their mind because it had nothing to do with the engagement or the encounter that you might have had with them. They just changed their mind because moments change, seasons change. But even in that, you should be responsible and accountable enough to talk to your brother or your sister and say that, because the Bible speaks about that. The Bible speaks about being a covenant breaker. And all you have is your word. Your word is your bond. If you can't maintain your word, if you can't keep your bond that you give somebody, then you should not give them, because the Bible calls you a truce breaker. He calls your truce breaker a covenant breaker, and then you have no word, and then can't nobody trust anything that you say. Your character become flawed. So that's why you have to, if the Lord be willing. That's why oftentimes the old saints used to tell us this all the time. You should say, if the Lord be willing, I'm gonna do thus and so. If God spare my life tomorrow, I'll do this. If God spares, if the Lord be willing, I'll do this. Why? Because then you're gonna find a but in a situation. You'll find yourself sitting back around saying, well, you said you was gonna do that. Yeah, but like for one instance, I give you a scenario. There was I was praying for a couple, and they had 3 cars, but one of the cars that they had was in the shop, which was the wife's car, and the other car was another one was a I can't remember the kind of car it was, but it was a nice car. And when I came to do thus and so, to come and pray with them and talk with them and see how they was doing, because they was going through some little things, and I said, so the wife says, man, Apostle, you had to borrow the car to come and visit us and come over here and see us. I said, girl, don't worry about it. I said, you my bro, you my sis. I had to come and see about y'all and whatnot. And the next time I came, I rented a car, right? And went on and went on and went on. So she said, you know what? When this car get fixed in the shop, we're going to give you this. It's in my heart to give it to you. No bad engagement, no bad encounters, nothing at all. So 3 months had passed by. I happened to be out in the mall and I happened to see them. And I noticed when I saw them, there was very distance. So happily, I was coming out the mall and they were coming out the mall. By the time we separated, we came back out. How God fixed it. Now, mind you, I still had a rental car. How God fixed it. I was coming out the mall, they were coming out the mall, and both of our cars was parked side by side. The car that was in the shop was parked side by side, right? So when they drove up there, because I was in the mall first, when they drove up and stuff, they didn't know they was parking next to my car, right? So when he was coming out, I got to my car and they stayed on the sidewalk. So I just sat in the car and then my phone rang and I was just in a full conversation and finally they walked to the car. She tatted on the window and she said, you okay? I said, yes, I'm on the phone call. And I said, the phone ringing, I was just on the phone call. I said, well, y'all got your car out the shop. That's when I really noticed that the car came out the shop. Oh, he came out the shop. And then the husband said, about 2 months ago. She said, no, about 2 weeks ago, right? So here's the key. She reneged on what she said she was going to do. Like normal. It's a normal thing for people to renege on what they said is going to do. So I said, okay. And so I backed the car up and I said, well, all right, y'all, God bless y'all. I act as if nothing never happened. So finally, they was driving. They gave the car to their son, which is something they wanted to do. Gave the car to his son. And he was driving to Vegas and the car broke down. So he calls me because the other two cars cannot get there, right? Because they can't trust the cars to get there. So they call me and asked me, could I come and take them? Not knowing I'm taking them on the way to Vegas, right? To go and pick up the car that they promised me they want to give me. And I sat there the entire time and I said, God, what are you doing? He said, I'm trying to show you the hearts of people. People will have a heart. He said, and this is what I mean by truce breakers, covenant breakers. People will have the heart and say things out of emotion and out of the moment, but have no meanings to it, no intention. So you have to guard your heart because out of your heart comes the issues of life. And that's for the person that spoke it and as well as for myself. God said, guard your heart. Stop allowing people to give you promises that they can never fulfill. And some people, you got to stop letting people give you promises that you know they're not going to fulfill. You know, you just simply tell them, say, no, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's okay. It's I find, look, I did do whatever it is you have to do for out of your goodness. The Bible said, don't give grudgingly nor out of necessity, but be a cheerful giver. In everything and anything that you do, people, I want you to give it out of the intentions of your heart and do it well. Give it well. Do it well. Do it magnificent. Don't allow nobody to sidetrack you. Don't allow nobody to mishandle you. Don't allow nobody to mistreat you. Don't allow nobody to have you discombobulated because they gave you something. Guard your heart because somebody have a but concerning you. Somebody got a but reason why they are not going to do what they promise you they're going to do. Somebody's going to have a but reason why they can't be faithful, loyal, dependable, and accountable with your friendship that you are. You are very faithful and accountable and dependable and loyal towards them, but they can't do it. But they will have a but reason why I can't do it. Well, you know, I was thinking about, but my wife, and she wanted to give it to the, finally when we had the conversation, this is what he said. Well, you know, I did tell him, bro, I know you feel a certain kind of way, you know, and I want to apologize to you because, you know, my wife, you know, we said we was going to give the car to you and we both agreed, but my wife wanted to give it to my son because it was more needful to give it to him so we wouldn't have to afford to pay for a car. But now we got to buy a car anyway is because this car broke down, right? So when she and I get in our conversation, the table turns, right? So now it's, yeah, but me and him was talking and he just said, you talked a little bit too fast. You should have let me, you talk it out before you share it with Apostle, with Prophet Juan and stuff like that. Because I want to give it to my son. So, you know, we wanted to do it, but my husband rather to give it to him so we wouldn't have to pay for it and whatnot. And so I stopped her. I said, so here's the concern that I have. in this matter. I say, because you told me one story and you know your husband told me another story, right? And it had nothing to do with what you're saying. I said, but what I would say is this. I would say this to you. I say, how wonderful would it have been if you had just called and said, hey, man of God, I ran into a problem and I know we promised you this, but we're going to give it to, we're going to give it to my son. We're gonna bring it to my son because he's getting ready to go such, and he's gonna need a car to do what needs to be done. And I would have said, okay, yes, good, do that for nephew, right? Because he admires me, he respects me, and all that. I was like, yeah, do that. And however, that didn't happen. So she said, you know what, you right, I should have did that, and we didn't. So forgive me. Right? So I said, well, y'all been forgiven. I said, I forgave y'all when I saw y'all at the mall. I said, because finally this conversation comes 6 months later, almost 7 months later, that they try to have this conversation with me. But how they did it, they both planned on they probably not say they both planned. Neither one of them planned to come together and have this conversation on what was going to be said. Or should I talk to him or should you talk to him? See, that never took place. And that but became a negative conjunction for them in relationship. You understand? It became a negative conjunction for them. It's because what they were supposed to have been honest with, in all of my honesty and all my loyalty and dependence and accountability to them, they wasn't. So you have to control every but that is in your life. Never allow anybody to manipulate you in the but factor of your life. If you're good enough to be their friends, if you're good enough to rock with them, if you're good enough to do what it is that you need to do with your friends and your people, the people should do the same thing for you, right? And I found out that some people don't do that because their mindset, I'm at work, y'all, their mindset is not where you are. And one thing I've learned about God and in Christendom, if we're going to be faithful, let's be faithful all the way. Never give your friend, never give your brother, never give your sister, never give your mama, never give your daddy, never give anyone the but reason of why you can't do what it is that you're going to do. All right? Well, listen, y'all, I want to give you that little short message. I love each and every one of you. Be encouraged, stand firm, stand strong, and do what God's calling you to do. And remember, you got the control of the buts. Don't let nobody give you the butt factory. Bye-bye.